Hello, everyone. I'm Madeline from Scrap and Sew, and thank you for signing up for the class. Today, I'm going to be going over how to make the Cutwork sachet. We had a few problems yesterday. Apparently, I'm having some problems speaking. However, we had a few technical internet type problems, and so I wanted to do another recorded session that you can follow along. So the first thing I'd like to do is start with an introduction to Cutwork needles. And many of you had to dust off your Cutwork needles, which I thought was kind of funny because I dug out mine and then I found 2 more packages that I had. So clearly this is something that I don't use every day. But once you do use it, you'll find that you really enjoy it. And you'll look for designs that you can use your Cutwork needles to create different types of projects. So we'll start with your project. This is your Cutwork sachet project. And this design that you see right here is the design that is in your machine. You will notice that we'll also do some wing needlework and some lace edge stitches right here, and that's in the techniques category of your machine. The Cutwork needles, there's 4 in a package, and the first one is, needle number 1 is red, and that cuts at a 45-degree angle. The machine will prompt you to start with a red needle, and then it will prompt you after that is finished to change your needle to yellow. The yellow will cut at 90 degrees, and then the green needle cuts at 135, and then needle 4 cuts at 0 degrees. Now, I have done several Cutwork designs, and I typically only use the red and yellow needles, but you may find other projects somewhere to use the Cutwork needles. You have to have something that is already digitized for the Cutwork needles. And you can do that with the MySewNet software in the Platinum version. So let's take a look at the next slide. This is the design. It is in the Pfaff exclusive category of your machine. And depending on whether you're using the Icon or the Icon 2, you will find the design in maybe different spaces or different places rather. But one of the things that I wanted you to note is that when you look in your sampler book that came along with your machine, you'll notice that there are some icons that are listed next to the designs. And the one that you see here is for using the Cutwork needles. And it'll stitch first a placement design, then it'll instruct you to change your needle to the red needle, and then it will cut that red needle and perhaps the yellow needle as well. And then you are going to finish trimming it out because there's securing tabs that keeps it from falling out while you're actually using the Cutwork needles. And then you'll have the cut opening in your project. And the next step is to float a piece of Wet and Gone or Aqua Magic underneath your hoop. And then the next stitch will be the basting stitch, but I'll go over that when we get to the stitch out. The other type of Cutwork that is found in your machine is Cutwork with scissors. And this is found rather in the flowers and leaves category. And what's different about this is you're going to use the Cutwork with scissors option. So the first thing the machine does is it stitches out basically a placement line. You'll take your scissors and snip out around it, and then the machine will go back and finish the satin stitch around it. So this area right here is where you will cut it out, slip the Aqua Magic or Wet and Gone underneath your project, and then it will continue with the satin stitch. The eyelet stitches right over here are also part of this design. and they're using it as an accent along with these little types of flowers, these little small flowers. When you're doing your Cutwork design and you are on your Pfaff Icon 2, turn on your projection, because what it will do is it'll give you a better idea of how your design fits over where you have cut. You'll notice here that in this sample, this cut pieces are already finished being cut out. And what happens is once you finish that step with the yellow needles, you'll slide your wet and gone underneath, and then you'll finish with a satin stitch. But these pieces, as I said, have securing tabs so that they don't fall through and onto your machine while you're doing this process. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen with a portion of the screen, which is a video. And let me get that up. Let's close that and that. And I'm going to play this recording. Now, this is the design that we're using actually, but this is just a single flower in the design. And they're showing you where you can find it. And also, you're going to switch colors, and I'm going to use a bright blue for my color choices so you can see it. Now, they're using the multi-purpose tool to change the needles. And what you want to do is you want to take your standard needle out, change it to the Cutwork needle, and then turn your machine on. Now, what I recommended is that to remove your bobbin and put in an empty bobbin. We had a customer at the store who brought in her machine, and it was a mess. And what happened is she left the bobbin in, and the needle shredded a lot of thread in her machine, and she ended up having to pay for it because it was operator error. So just be sure that you remove the bobbin, you'll get a prompt, and then just ignore it. And what you can see here is she's cutting, trimming out using those little snips. Those are great. If you don't own them, you should get some. And then she's sliding the Wet and Gone or Aqua Magic underneath. Then the next prompt is to do the last part or the tack down stitch. Now in our design, because it's a larger design, it will actually have a stitch out attaching it to your project. Then after the basic tack down, then it will go through and start laying down your underlay stitches for your satin stitching. You can choose to use one color and stitch the whole design in one color, or you can use 3 different colors, 4 different colors, whatever you choose. I chose to make the last satin stitching part of this design match the background fabric. But again, it's your choice. And there's the design. I like the colors that they've selected for this project. So if you want to take a look at the designs when you come up with those little stamens there, you can use that to match the satin stitching on your design. Okay, now let me close that. And let me stop the sharing. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go over to the machine, and I'm going to show you how to set up your machine for Cutwork designs. And then I'm also going to show you where you can find additional Cutwork designs on your machine. So we're going to just pause this, and I'll be back in a second. So you're going to find the Help Center on your machine. And in this case, on the icon 2, it's in the upper right-hand corner. Give it a tap. All right, we'll go to embroidery first, see if that helps. All right, now we'll go to the Help Center. and we'll go into techniques and tutorials. We'll go to embroidery techniques. We'll select cutwork techniques. And there are 3 different categories within the cutwork. There's the cutwork with scissors, just like I showed you on the presentation. We're going to go into the cutwork needles. And you'll notice here that there are 16 pages of instructions that you can follow in using the cutwork needles. But that's basically what this class is all about. So we're not going to use that to follow, but if you're doing this on your own, that's a helpful tool. Tap on the content and you'll see the designs. And the design we're using is one with 4 designs at the bottom. And let's try number 4 and see if that's it. Nope, that's not it. All righty, let's delete that. Kind of hard to see, and the reason being, I didn't even know this particular design existed because it's so faint. So let's try this again. 6. There we go. So let's close that screen. And now we have our design in the middle of the screen. What I would like to do first is I want to put this design in the center of the hoop. Be sure and select the correct hoop. So it defaults to 260 by 260. So I'm going to change it to 360 by 260 because we're going to need the whole hoop once we add in the buttonholes. So now I want to make sure that's in the center. So I go to the move screen, which is that icon right there, and I tap it. Now it puts it in the middle. What I really want is I want this design to be at the bottom of my sachet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap this number right here. And I'm going to put in a negative 33. And it didn't. Let me grab it again. Negative 33. If you're not getting a negative, that means that you are on another icon and not the move icon. So when I close this, you can now see that our design is at the bottom, and I want those 4 leaves, cutwork leaves, at the bottom to the left there. Now I am using the directions, and I am following along on the directions, and we are on step number, let's see, let me make sure you're on the right page here. Okay, so we're on page 3, on step number 10. Okay, so what we did is we put the design on our hoop at a minus 33 for the X position, because this is just like a piece of graph paper that you use in geometry. Now this one somehow moved, so I'm just going to change that to 0. Well, I want 0. Right, like that. And now I have just completed the first part of step number 10 on your worksheet. I'm going to close this to do the next step. And the next step is to load the buttonhole stitch. In order to load the buttonhole, we're going to go on to the sewing side of the machine. We're going to go into the utility category. We're going to select the subcategory 1.3, and we're going to long hold number 1. And there's your buttonhole. We're going to take that buttonhole and we're going to move it right up here because that's approximately where we're going to start. But the first thing we have to do is we have to rotate it. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back into the Edit Design screen, going to tap this icon right here for rotate. And then I'm just going to tap it once in the middle for 90 degrees. The little arrows on each side means that you can change the degrees in 1 degree increments if you choose. The center changes it in 90 degree increments. So we're going to leave it at that and change, be sure you change to the move icon, because what will happen is that it will start moving it and rotating it. And we had one of the ladies yesterday who was off only by 1 degree. So that will make a difference. So now what we're going to do is we're going to follow our directions, and the first set of numbers that we're using on the keypad for the move icon is going to be 95. And you will notice that all of the buttonholes, the X position is going to be 95. So they all line up nice and neat. The right position, or the number on the right, is going to be 143. And it's already there. I did a pretty good job in guessing. And there's the first one. Now what we're going to do there is we're going to now duplicate it. So we're going to go down here, duplicate our design, and according to the worksheet, we're going to tap the X-axis, XE, at 95, and the Y at 130. And I'm following the directions, and I'm on page number 15. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take those two buttonhole designs that are separated by a space, but even to the left, and we're going to group those. So how to group is I go into the layers panel, tap the layers panel. Let me try my finger this time. And you will see your main design first, and then the top buttonhole, and then the next buttonhole. Select multiple in the top screen there. Tap both of them, and the group icon lights up. Tap group. This will allow us to duplicate our designs, our buttonhole designs, and to move them as one. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate it again, and then we're going to change that number to 95 again on the left. And that first number is 60, this Y number is 68. There we are. So I skipped over one, so we need to fix that, and I'll tell you why. If I go to put in another set of buttonholes and I put it back here where it belongs, it will be out of sync. You'll stitch these two buttonholes, you'll jump down to these two buttonholes, and then go to this set of buttonholes. Oops, don't want to do that. So we're going to highlight that set of buttonholes and change this now to 130. Put it in the right position. No, that is not the right position. All righty. I messed up. That's okay. We'll figure it out. I knew this was going to happen. All righty. So the first set of buttonholes. All right, I've got them selected. This is 95 and it is 68. I thought that looked odd. Maybe that's because I've done this so many times. Now I'm going to duplicate it again. Bring it down. Nope, see what I did? I made it larger. Now that's a problem, but we can quickly remedy that with a undo. I love that feature. How lucky are we to have that on our machines? Then we're going to go to page 5. And this one we're going to type in or tap in 95 for the left. Oh, now see what happened? That means I'm on the wrong icon. So I don't want to make it larger. I want to make it the same. So I am going to select the move icon, which I should have done in the first place, but that's okay. This is a learning experience in case you do anything like this on your own. And then this one is in the middle. So it's at 0. Okay, now if you can't see what you're doing, take your fingers and draw it together. And that pinches it so you'll be able to see it. We're going to duplicate. And then we're going to select negative 95. So I'm sorry, not 95, 68. So we're going to put 95 in again. Now you'll notice, see how I have my negative sign and the dot for period? That's because I'm on the move. That other icon was to rescale it. I didn't want to do that. Okay, back over here. I'm going to make it a negative 68. Now that positions it below center because right there is center. This is to the lower right. So I'm going to just pull this up ever so slightly so that I can duplicate that and then change it to 95. And 136, a negative 136. Okay. No, too good to be true. Alrighty, so what I did is I duplicated this and I changed the stitch points to 95 on the left and a negative 136 on the right. Now, alrighty, I hope we're sharing now. I pushed the wrong button. Sorry about that. All righty. So what I did is I had duplicated this, and the last set of points were 95 on the left, or the X, and negative 136 on the Y. Now, what I would recommend is you actually save this. So what I would do is go to save and make a new category, calling it Cutwork folder, long hold on it. Now to make a Cutwork folder, you just go to plus and add it. And then long hold on it to do your sachet. So this one is now going to be sachet version, and I do lowercase, sachet 2. And then I'm going to save it. Okay. Now we're ready. Here, if you can't grab something, this is a good point too. If you can't grab something and it's already highlighted and you want it not to be highlighted, just select multiple off, and now they're all showing. Okay. So there's my design. I'm all ready to go to embroidery. So I'm going to push the go button. And I'm going to pause the machine. Pause the recording, sorry. Alrighty, now I switched over to the icon machine, and I want to show you how to do the same steps on your icon. And again, referring to your worksheets, we're going to start with finding our design. So on this machine, you're going to go down to the home screen right here, and it'll bring up this screen here. So what we want to do is we want to go to open the Help Center. We'll go to Techniques and Tutorials, and we'll scroll to Embroidery Techniques, Cutwork, and the same thing, Cutwork with stitches, Cutwork with needles, and then the eyelets. We'll tap that open. Again, the instructions. We'll go to Content. And with this one, we're going to try to find the right one. So we're going to go with 6. Again, hard to see them. And that's the right one. Notice how you can play around with your screens by just opening and closing certain screens. So I'm going to close this screen. Maybe, maybe not. Oh my. Boy, did I get myself in a mess. All righty, now this is not funny. Okay. I'm trying to close this. I've got to highlight it. I don't want that. I'll highlight that. No. Oh, now I'm super frustrated. All righty. Let's see if we can go here. Nope, that's the, now see if I can close that there, finally. So I'll open it back up again. See how you just, and there it is again. Oh my. So I'm going to close this, find my content, go to number 6 again, bring it down over here so we can see it on our screen. It should minimize. Boy. Instructions. There's your instructions. I don't know why my fingers are not working. Come on.